right, so today we're diving into a real-life spy scandal, but this one is less about, those classic stolen secrets or double agents, and more about, like, office gossip gone wrong.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right.
That's a new one.
Yeah, so we're going deep into the U.S. intelligence community. Apparently, over 100 employees were fired recently.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And get this, they weren't fired for leaking secrets or anything like that. It was for having, quote-unquote, inappropriate discussions.
Okay, hold on. Inappropriate discussions.
Or-
Where?
On Intelink.
What, on Intelink? That's where they share top secret intelligence.
Yeah, exactly. You'd think that would be the ass place for that kind of thing.
Right, like their digital vault for classified information.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so interesting. Our source for this deep dive is an episode of Behind the Headlines, the podcast.
Oh, yeah, I know that one.
Yeah, and it's titled Spy Games or Social Chats, the Intel Scandal That Shook the U.S. Pretty catchy, right?
Yeah, I like it.
So, yeah, essentially, it seems like Intelink became this, like, a very messy clash of personal expression and those, national security concerns.
Huh, that's a weird mix.
Yeah, so, okay, we've got the setting, this super secret spy network.
Right.
But what were these so-called inappropriate discussions actually about?
Okay, so we're not talking about leaked intel or sabotage plans or anything like that. It was more like conversations about gender reassignment surgery, preferred pronouns, and personal experiences with, those DEI initiatives.
DEI?
Yeah.
So like typical water cooler talk.
Yeah, exactly.
But happening on a platform that's handling national security secrets.
Yeah, which is...
Yeah, wild.
Yeah, it takes on a whole new dimension for sure.
So did anyone from like the top react to all of this?
Oh, yeah. The director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard.
Of course.
She made a statement. It was a bombshell.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she went on Fox News and called it an egregious violation of trust and announced that everyone involved would be terminated, stripped of their security clearances.
Oh, wow. So basically their careers in intelligence were over.
Over just like that.
Just like that. And it's interesting because her taking such a strong stance really kind of plays into this larger political narrative around DEI.
I was just thinking that.
Particularly all the critiques we've seen from figures like Donald Trump.
Right, right.
This wasn't just about misusing the platform. It became like a symbolic battleground.
Wow. Okay, so how did this all come out? Like, was it a whistleblower or something?
So it wasn't a hack or a whistleblower situation. It was leaked chat logs.
Leaked.
Yeah, and they were shared with City Journal by a conservative journalist who used to work for the NSA.
Oh, interesting.
And these weren't recent chats. Apparently they go back like 2 years.
2 years of chat logs? That's a lot.
Yeah. Talk about a data dump. There was plenty of explosive stuff in there.
Like what was the worst of it?
Well, one exchange that really stood out to me was a debate about using its pronouns.
Yeah, pronouns. Someone wanted to use those pronouns and another employee questioned it. And then accusations of erasing transgender identities started flying around.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And now, for our listeners who might not be familiar with the term dead naming,
right,
it refers to using a transgender person's birth name, the one they no longer identify with,
right,
which is considered super disrespectful in the trans community. But anyway, this whole debate on Intelink, it really highlights just how heated things became.
Wow, yeah.
And how personal beliefs were all mixed up with these supposedly workplace conversations.
It's incredible how something like pronoun usage,
yeah,
which many would consider a personal choice,
right,
can become such a flashpoint.
Yeah, especially in this context.
Yeah, for sure. This whole scandal, it brings us to the bigger picture of these DEI programs.
For sure.
Which have been generating a lot of discussion and debate lately.
Yeah.
So what's the connection here?
Well, the whistleblower who leaked the logs claimed that DEI programs at the NSA had basically morphed from those casual employee resource groups. Right.
Into this mandatory re-education training that was supposedly sidelining the actual intelligence work.
Wow. So they were saying that these DEI programs were actually getting in the way of national security.
Yeah, they even claimed that some analysts refused to report on targets if it meant using their dead name.
Wait, hold on. You're saying national security could be compromised over using the wrong name for someone?
That's what the whistleblower is alleging. And it's a claim that's been picked up and amplified by those who are critical of DEI programs.
Right.
Arguing that they've gone too far and that they're actually now detrimental to national security.
Huh. So this case, while dramatic,
right,
it's not isolated.
Not at all. Just last week, the CIA also fired employees who were involved in DEI initiatives.
Really?
Yeah, citing concerns that their focus was being diverted from those core intelligence tasks.
So let me get this straight. We've got employees discussing personal experiences and beliefs on a top-secret intelligence platform, allegations of DEI programs overtaking intelligence work.
And firings across multiple agencies. It's kind of a chaotic picture, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it raises some fundamental questions about the boundaries between personal expression
Right?
and the responsibilities of working in national security.
Yeah, because if employees are having these kinds of discussions on a platform meant for sharing highly sensitive information,
Mhm.
I mean, what does that say about their focus on their main duty, protecting national security?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
It is. Did these firings help restore discipline and focus? Or did they actually weaken national security by getting rid of so many experienced people?
That's where it gets really interesting because you have valid arguments on both sides. Maintaining discipline and making sure employees prioritize their core responsibilities is absolutely crucial.
Right, especially in intelligence work.
Exactly. But you can't ignore the potential consequences of firing so many experienced personnel either. It's a very delicate balance. And unpacking this further is key to understanding the potential long-term fallout of this whole scandal.
Okay, so complex situation. No easy answers. But
Mhm.
before we get into all that, let's talk about Intelink itself. How secure is this platform really? I mean, if everyday conversations are being leaked, what does that say about its vulnerability to actual spies?
Now, that is a brilliant point.
Right.
Because to understand what happened, we need to unpack how Intelink actually works.
Okay.
It's not just a chat room, it's a sophisticated network with layers of security protocols designed to prevent those leaks.
So then how did these conversations become public? Was it an actual security breach or something else?
Right. To answer that, we need to delve into the inner workings of this digital fortress.
Okay, so if these conversations were happening on a platform specifically for top secret intelligence, what does that tell us about how employees perceive privacy and security in this digital age we live in?
That's a crucial question, and it really highlights the need to explore the psychology behind online communication, particularly in such a high-stakes environment like the intelligence community. Did these employees really believe their conversations were private? Or did they just knowingly cross a line? Understanding their motivations and perceptions is going to be key to preventing similar incidents in the future.
This is fascinating, and it's clear that this scandal goes way beyond simple office gossip.
Mhm.
It touches on fundamental issues about technology, privacy, free speech, and the evolving role of DEI in the workplace.
Absolutely. And as we move forward, we'll delve deeper into these complexities.
Okay.
We'll examine the arguments from various perspectives and explore the potential long-term consequences of this scandal for the intelligence community and beyond.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
So Intelink, right? It's basically a closed network,
Okay.
like a digital fortress, designed for secure communication and information sharing within the intelligence community.
So like a high-security intranet, but for spies?
Exactly. It has multiple layers of security, from firewalls and encryption to strict access controls and monitoring systems.
So if it's so secure, how did those chat logs leak? Did someone with high-level access just decide to share them? Or was there like a flaw in the system itself?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? From what we know, the most likely scenario is that the leak came from someone who had access to the logs, but wasn't authorized to share them publicly.
So you're saying it wasn't like a hacker or anything?
Right. It seems like more of an inside job.
Huh.
You see, Interlink, like any system, it relies on humans to enforce those security protocols.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's possible someone abused their access privileges.
Okay, but why? Why would they do that?
Well, there could be a few reasons. Maybe they were motivated by political ideology
Oh,
or
interesting.
personal grievances.
Like that whistleblower who leaked the logs to City Journal.
Exactly.
So human error, not a technological failure.
It seems that way.
It's kind of more unsettling, isn't it?
It is, because it suggests that even the most secure systems are vulnerable to these insider threats.
It really makes you wonder about the whole oversight and accountability within the intelligence community.
Yeah, for sure.
How can you prevent individuals from abusing their access to sensitive information, especially in a digital age where data leaks can have such huge consequences?
That's the challenge, isn't it? It makes you think about the psychological impact of working in such a secretive environment.
Yeah, like did these employees actually believe their conversations were private? Or did they completely underestimate the risks?
That's a good question, and it speaks to this broader issue of how we all perceive privacy and security in the digital age. I mean, even on a platform designed for secrecy, people might let their guard down.
Yeah, especially if they're talking to colleagues they trust.
Exactly. It's like that old saying, loose lips sink ships. But in a digital context, it's more like loose clicks sink careers.
Ooh, I like that.
And it's not just about careers.
Right.
These leaks could compromise national security.
If the content of those conversations fell into the wrong hands.
Exactly. Now, while the content we've discussed so far seems to be more focused on personal opinions and workplace culture, we can't rule out the possibility that more sensitive information was also discussed on Intelink.
That's a scary thought.
So this incident should really be a wake-up call for the intelligence community to reassess their security protocols and educate employees about the potential consequences of even casual chatter online.
So going back to the firings you mentioned earlier, that there are valid arguments on both sides.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? Like, what are the potential benefits and drawbacks of taking such a drastic measure?
Well, on the one hand, firing over 100 employees sends a very strong message about accountability
Right.
and the importance of maintaining discipline.
Especially when you're dealing with sensitive information.
Exactly. It draws a clear line in the sand.
That this kind of behavior won't be tolerated.
Right. And it could potentially deter future leaks and really reinforce the importance of cybersecurity within the intelligence community.
But what about all the expertise that was lost? I mean, firing that many experienced analysts must have had some kind of negative impact on how effective these agencies can be.
That's the other side of the coin. These weren't just entry-level employees. Many of them were seasoned analysts with years of experience and specialized knowledge. Losing that institutional knowledge could create gaps in intelligence gathering and analysis.
Right, and that could hinder their ability to identify and respond to threats.
Exactly. Replacing those individuals takes time and money and extensive training.
Not to mention rebuilding trust within the ranks.
Exactly. It's like losing a whole team of veteran detectives.
They can't just replace that kind of experience overnight.
Nope. So the question becomes, did the benefits of the firings in terms of preventing leaks and restoring that discipline
Right.
outweigh the costs of losing all that expertise and potentially creating this climate of fear and distrust?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It seems like there's a real tension between maintaining a secure and disciplined workforce and fostering an environment where people feel comfortable expressing themselves.
And this tension isn't unique to the intelligence community. It's something we're grappling with across society as the lines between our personal and professional lives become increasingly blurred online.
It's a whole new world.
It is. So how do we reconcile our right to free speech with the need for discretion and professionalism?
Yeah, and how do we balance inclusivity with security and confidentiality?
These are questions that go way beyond this scandal, but this incident definitely brings them into sharp focus.
It forces us to really confront these complexities of navigating personal expression and online communication in a world where everything leaves a digital footprint.
Absolutely, and it underscores the importance of having open and honest conversations about these issues.
Yeah, we need to figure out some clear guidelines for online behavior, both within the intelligence community and in society as a whole.
Right, while also respecting individual rights and fostering a culture of understanding and respect.
So beyond security protocols and disciplinary actions, what can the intelligence community do to prevent similar incidents from happening again? Like, what lessons can we learn from all of this?
I think one crucial step is to move beyond just telling employees what not to do,
Right.
and instead focus on helping them understand the ethical implications of their actions.
So go beyond the technical training,
Exactly. Delve into the nuances of online communication
the potential consequences.
and the importance of aligning personal conduct with the values and mission of the intelligence community.
So it's about fostering a culture of ethical awareness and responsibility.
Exactly. Rather than just relying on rules and punishment
So a shift in mindset.
from both leadership and individual employees.
Got it.
It's about cultivating a sense of shared responsibility for protecting sensitive information.
And understanding that even private online conversations can have public consequences.
Precisely.
It sounds like a tall order, especially in a culture that's always been so secretive.
It is a challenge, but it's essential if we want to build a more resilient and ethical intelligence community for the future.
Yeah.
This scandal has really exposed the vulnerabilities of our current approach.
Right.
And it's a chance to reevaluate our priorities and come up with strategies that better align with this digital age.
So it's not just about protecting national security.
No, it's also about protecting the rights and reputations of individuals.
Because sharing personal information or opinions, even in private online spaces, can have really serious consequences.
Especially in a world where information spreads so quickly.
And it's hard to control.
It is. This is a reminder that even in the digital age, words have power. And
Yeah.
we all have a responsibility to use them wisely.
And that responsibility is even greater for those who are entrusted with sensitive information and tasked with protecting national security.
Absolutely.
So where do we go from here? What are the key takeaways from this deep dive? And what questions should we be asking ourselves going forward?
Well, this scandal has highlighted the complex interplay between technology, human behavior, and ethical considerations within the intelligence community. It's a wake-up call to reevaluate our security protocols, our training methods, and our overall approach to managing information and online communication. But beyond this specific case, it raises broader questions about how we balance individual rights with national security concerns in an increasingly digital world.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack, and there are no easy answers.
Yeah.
But as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with one question.
Okay.
If even a platform like Intelink, designed for secrecy and security, can be breached,
Right.
what does that say about our ability to protect sensitive information in the digital age?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's one that we need to think carefully about. This incident reminds us that technology alone can't solve the problem.
So what can we do?
We need to invest in robust security systems,
Right.
but we also need to cultivate a culture of ethical awareness, responsibility, and accountability.
Within the intelligence community and beyond.
Exactly.
It's a challenge that requires a multifaceted approach.
Right. Yes, it does.
Involving technological solutions, policy changes, and a shift in mindset.
It's not going to be easy.
But it's a challenge we have to face if we want to navigate this digital age effectively and responsibly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how we approach security going forward. It's got to be more than just, firewalls and passwords.
Yeah, definitely. It's about building a security-conscious culture from the very beginning. You know those leaked chat logs?
Yeah.
It wasn't really a tech failure. It was more like a failure of judgment. So how do we fix that?
That's the question, isn't it? You talked about ethical training before. But is that enough? Like, how do you really get people to be responsible?
Yeah.
Not just checking boxes in some training module.
Well, that's where leadership comes in. It's got to start from the top, setting the tone, prioritizing security without, killing open dialogue. What if leaders regularly emphasize responsible online communication?
Okay.
And not just in those formal training sessions, but like in everyday interactions.
Right.
They could even use real-world examples, like this whole Intelink scandal, to show people what can happen if they're careless online.
So it's about leading by example, not just relying on policies.
Exactly. Creating an environment where people understand what's at stake and feel like they can speak up if something's not right.
So fostering accountability, where everyone feels responsible for protecting sensitive information.
Exactly. Not just leaving it to the IT department. And this responsibility has to go beyond just the workplace. The lines between our personal and professional lives are so blurred these days, especially online.
It's like that old saying, think before you speak, but now it's think before you post.
Right. Everything we do online leaves a trace, even on platforms that seem private.
And for intelligence professionals, that trace can have serious consequences for national security.
Absolutely. It's about understanding that even harmless conversations online can be twisted, taken out of context, or even used against you.
So this Intelink scandal, it's not just a wake-up call for the intelligence community, it's a wake-up call for all of us.
I think so. It reminds us that we need to be aware of our digital footprint and think about how our actions online could affect our jobs and even national security.
We're all connected now, more than ever.
We are. And that means we need to be talking about these issues, having open and honest conversations about ethics online and the changing idea of privacy in the digital age. How do we balance individual rights with the need for security and discretion?
It's a big question with no easy answers.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Intelink scandal, what's the main takeaway for our listeners? What should they be thinking about?
Well, this whole incident, it really shows that security is everyone's responsibility. In a world where information is power and our online lives are so closely tied to our professional lives, we have to be careful about what we do online. Think before you act, because there can be real consequences. It's about being smart, responsible, and talking about how we can navigate this digital world in a way that's both ethical and effective.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you with this question to ponder. In a time when everything is connected, how do we balance transparency and open communication with the need to protect sensitive information and national security? It's a tough question, but it's one we all need to be thinking about. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.